We're joined by political analyst Sysman Motloung. If you're able to hear me, Sysman, a very good evening to you. Grateful for your time. So the DA was confident going into this that it would be able to retain mayorship in Tshwane, but it's lost it. It is the second of the three major metros in Gauteng, first being Johannesburg, now Tshwane, and imminently we're hearing Ekurhuleni. Where does this leave the party?
Hi, Tumbekile, and greetings to your viewers. I think definitely you can see that the DA was very confident in having a position in this state, and them sending a person who has been also very much following up on local government issues was a sign that they are really confident about it. But what we see happening now with what the ANC and EFF led coalition did here was to bring in those minor parties, especially with the recent developments of Hope moving that side to join them. It shows us, and you can hear in the speech here by the executive mayor, that narrative of a DA that is not willing to work with minor political parties is still reverberating. So they're building that impression that DA is not willing to collaborate, but it wants to amass that power itself. It wants to lead, especially now punting Hammaskral as a community that has been struggling with water as if it has been liberated under this dispensation.
Well, the DA, by its account, says that it's always been willing to work well and negotiate with its coalition partners, but it claims what happened in Tshwane is that Mr. Makwarela had now been approached and was positioning himself to become mayor, and that's why he basically, to paraphrase, betrayed the coalition.
Yes, I think it makes sense. As soon as he moved to join the other side, there was something tangible. And it is speaking to that narrative. Look at what happened in Joburg. The ANC-EFF coalition decided to bring in a minor party into an executive power. They are repeating that trend here. It is not EFF, it is not ANC that's saying we want executive mayor position. They are saying we're not interested in that. What we want is to consolidate power. We want to stabilize local governance and want to improve services. This is what they are saying. You want to know, why did COPE leave an ANC coalition? Is it because maybe, leaving a DA-led coalition? Is it because DA was not willing to compromise or bargain on some positions? Hence, COPE felt it wanted to go with the EFF. DA would say COPE was greedy. Okay. But COPE would say you are not willing to collaborate, you're not willing to share power in a way.
Just on that,
we see that trend in that sense.
Just on the trend, you're right, because in Johannesburg there was a similar thing where basically the Al-Jamaa party got the mayorship, even though it was the ANC doing much of the groundwork in trying to pull together that agreement that ultimately led to the removal of DA Mayor Mpopalazi. Tonight in Tshwane, we've seen the DA lose out on the mayorship there as well. In terms of the long-term strategy, what do you think the ANC is aiming to do here, and will it pay off ultimately, where it is part of these coalition arrangements, but it gives up, if you will, the crown jewel being the mayorship to take up other roles?
I think this is what the ANC is doing. We've heard them from their national conference that they are already thinking about a coalition government in 2024. I would want to think that they are already setting themselves up for that, to say when it comes after national elections that they need these political parties. The political parties are more loyal to serve them in a sense of supporting them, and maybe with the presidency, because we gave you Tshwane, we gave you Gauteng, we've been collaborating with you. Now be more reciprocating yourself. It could be working towards that side, especially seeing what happens now, that those minor parties, they can go away with their 2% votes, 1% votes, and it's significant. Now what they're doing is take those small parties into their confidence, hopefully knowing that they can rely on them after the national elections.
So give the smaller parties, quote unquote, positions at local government level, keep them happy at local government, but in return in the longer term, if it comes to it next year, for a firmer grip on national government. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. They will definitely need them at provincial legislatures and nationally.
The DA then, in its speech just after Mayor Makwarela had addressed council for the first time, said this, that the mayor will find that the strings of a puppet can be very uncomfortable. Do you think that coalitions between a party like the ANC that holds larger numbers, and COPE, for instance, where Makwarela is from, that has one seat in the Tshwane Council, are those sort of relationships ever equal in the true sense, or does the one call the shots?
Okay. This is what is happening. What you listen to, when you listen to the small parties, these minor parties are saying, we don't seem to be treated as equals by the DA. The DA seems to say, I'm a big party, more experienced, and that's sort of an arrogance from the DA. While in this framework where ANC, EFF are coming through, they're saying you can have your mayoral position. This is a big short position, and we can take MEC there. So we're distributing positions, and this seems to be more of an effective strategy than taking everything yourself, which is what these minor parties seem to insinuate about the DA. And it will be more stable. Look at Johannesburg now. You can, in a way, see an ANC, an EFF representative in that council shining on the streets, fulfilling their purpose. So you can see small parties also expressing themselves.
Right.
While under a DA coalition, you couldn't see minor parties expressing themselves, those kind of character. You could not see expressed in these MEC positions. This is something that is totally different in what we see emerging recently.
Let's talk about the Congress of the People. It's declined in support nationally from what it was after the formation of COPE by Musiwelo Kota and Bazi Mashilowa. We know that was in the context of the fallout from the ANC's Polokwane conference, where Thabo Mbeki, the former president, was defeated by Jacob Zuma, right? A lot of promise in the elections immediately thereafter, but since then we've seen infighting, we've seen dwindling electoral support. But in the last 6 months, COPE has managed to get a speaker role in Johannesburg. It's now got a mayor in office in Tshwane. What does that mean for the future of a party that many had started to write off?
COPE is in a way a big disappointment for the South African electorate. There was hope that with this new emerging party, we can go in a different trajectory. And I think if COPE was a success story, South Africa could not have been where it is now. Hopefully, COPE could have been a leading opposition, or if not, a governing party. But what we see currently is not anything to do with the divisions within that party. Those divisions will remain. What is important is the numbers that the party brings in councils currently. And every political party will go to them and negotiate with them and see how they can work together to consolidate their power in those councils. The party itself, and in the national elections, we could see it. It depends how they will mobilize themselves now for the national elections. We could see them very much falling, because you can see them in parliament. It's only, I think, 1 or 2 seats also. They might be falling away, and then their presence could only be at a local level, where most of their activists interact with the people, and they see, I think they find favor more at that level than at the national level, where they are not really captivating.
Sysman Motloung, political analyst, a pleasure to speak to you, sir.